Welcome to Out of the Blue, number 489. I've shown this picture before. A couple years ago I showed this picture. It's a picture I picked up. It's not an original. It's not exceptionally valuable. It's a reproduction of a famous trompe-l'oeil. I had this picture for a long time. I bought it more for the tambourine than the fiddle. And there's a lot of little details to look at. The 100 melodies, that's kind of neat. I like the tambourine because the leather is see-through, and there's a see-through quality to that tambourine, and you can see the music behind it. I think that's kind of neat. There's a snail, which kind of goes with the snail's pace that it takes to learn the violin. The adult beginner. But later, after I owned it for a while, I noticed this. And let's see how close I can get. What I noticed was that there's a little wisp of smoke from the candle, and that there's one little dot. Ah, there it is. One little dot of paint. And so that's the little ember with a little bit of smoke. So this turns this into an action shot because that candle has just been blown out. That now is a picture of all this stuff, and the candle has just been blown out, as we can see. Because the ember is still burning, and that only lasts, as everyone knows, for a short little while. So then that painting now, because of all that, it becomes kind of a symbol of Neo-Swedenborgianism, because what I'm saying is that all the new resuscitation apparatus we have, the resuscitation apparati, is giving us a sort of it's sort of like a microscope into the last 10 seconds of life. And so Neo-Swedenborgianism becomes the study of that moment depicted in that painting, when the candle has just been burned out, but there's a little glimmer, there's a little ember that glows for who knows how long, but not forever. You know, and so that becomes the symbol of Neo-Swedenborgianism, because what these resuscitation apparati are giving us is a close-up of this final 10 seconds of life. And there's this current day challenge of what to do with that. And there's what you see is the near-death experience literature of the last, since the 70s. A lot of these people become whatever their religion is. So there's Howard Storm is a really good famous one if you were new to this topic, who went from an atheist college professor to a evangelical preacher. Rabbi Anova, who went from being secular to being orthodox after a near-death experience, right? So most of the literature is this kind of, it turns into a conversion experience for a lot, not everyone, but a lot of people. And so that's not what this is. This is not a conversion experience. This is a look at this body of literature with the knowledge, the verifiable, quantifiable knowledge that you and I, everyone who understands me in English, has a 10% chance of entering into that. See, because these near-death experiences only happen about 10% of the time. The other 90% of the time, the person just, you know, I mean, by the person, I should say, I'm talking generally about people whose heart has stopped for some reason or other, and they are resuscitated. So 90% of the time, they don't say anything. They say, I was doing this. I remember blacking out. I sat down. I passed out. I woke up. That's 90% of the time. So, 10% of the time is I floated above my body and I saw the tunnel of light and I zoomed down this tunnel of light into a city of light or a world of all light and love, and I felt the light as love. And I saw a beautiful garden and a pasture, and there was this beautiful young woman who looked to be about 20 years old, and I looked at her, and it was my own grandmother who lived to be whatever, and here she was, a young woman. She's like, I'm your grandma. Grandma, right? And then Grandma and I flew over the gardens, and the flowers spoke to us, and we were heading towards this city of light when whatever. So that's the... That's the near-death experience, and that's what we have a 10% chance of entering. I've said before, the 90% chance is that you're just going to close your eyes and die, right? So I look at that statistic that's in these near-death experience books, and the statistic is that 10% of the time that these people's hearts stop, they have this type of a general NDE type experience. 90% of the time, it's either nothing or some other nebulous sort of thing. It doesn't follow that kind of framework that the near-death experience is in. So I don't extrapolate at all from that. That's basically what I'm saying, is that you have a 90% chance. So I'm coming to the conclusion based on those two things that here's what happens when you die. You have a 90% chance of just you close your eyes and you're gone. That happens to 90% of people who die. They don't have anything else. They just die. They don't have any memory. They don't have any existence. Okay, so those people who said when their heart stopped, they just closed their eyes and there was blackness and nothing, I'm taking them on their word, right? Taking them on their word that, so if you ask that person, what happened when you died? Your heart stopped. And the guy says, I just closed my eyes. Everything went black, and then I woke up later in the hospital or whatever. So, okay, you take that person on their word, and that's what happens 90% of the time, or so, right? And so, what's going to happen when you die? Well, you have a 90% chance of it being absolute nothingness, not even memory or anything. You just disappear. And so, what do you do with that information? I suggest you read Marcus Aurelius and you become a Stoic. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is a very thin book, and it's just these little paragraphs. And if you ever see a real thick book and it says Marcus Aurelius Meditations, there's something else in there. So get the thinnest Marcus Aurelius Meditations you could find, read them, and think about that in your own life. That's the basis of the Stoic philosophy. So the response I'm saying to having a 90% chance of nothingness is to become a Stoic. Right. But you can't really talk about becoming a Stoic. There's nothing then to talk about, right? Because to talk about Stoicism is to scream out that you don't know what Stoicism is. Because to be Stoic or to be a Stoic is to not really talk much, right? So the 90% chance, there's nothing more to talk about. Go read Marcus Aurelius and sit in the corner and think. Right? And so I'm talking about this other 10% chance that we all, speakers of English, have. Because there, it falls into a kind of a framework. And by calling this whole philosophy Neo-Swedenborgianism, I am suggesting that Swedenborg, who was also an anatomist and a physiologist, mapped out this framework of our own psyche that exists in us now, and like that painting on the wall, still exists for a good 10 seconds after the candle is burned out. So you're dead. You know you're dead. You're falling. It takes a second or two to fall. You lay on the ground for 8 seconds. Your body is dead. You enter into this little psyche space. You enter into the psyche space for about 10 seconds, just like when you blow out a candle, that little ember glows for about 10 seconds. Unless something happens that you snuff it out, many people will snuff it out. Now this opens a whole nother chapter. Now do I really want to get into this? I guess I might as well, since I brought it up. 10 minutes already. What I brought up is what if you don't want to have this experience? What if you want to not go to this? You want to be sure that you're not in the 10%. See, because that's the bad news of Neo-Swedenborgianism is that it doesn't really matter if you believe this or not. You have this chance. If you understand me in English, you have this chance. And so, if the bad news of Neo-Swedenborgianism is very bad news to you, which I expect it will be to some people, how, or is it possible to control your chances of going from one of the 90%, into the 10%? In other words, is there some way of dying that prevents you from even having a chance of that 10%? If you die so fast, like the atomic bomb in Japan, there's these shadows of these people who are near the drop zone, and they just evaporated in a moment. So the atomic bomb blasts, this person standing there, it's the morning, they evaporate in a moment. Did that person have an NDE? Or did that person just instantaneously disappear? In other words, is the NDE a product of that little ember glowing for the last? Is the NDE? I'm suggesting. I mean, Neo-Swedenborgianism suggests that the NDE is a product of that little glowing ember, and Neo-Swedenborgianism suggests that the whole heaven world exists in that glowing ember. Right? But that when we enter it, since our body is dead, we have no relationship with time, so it becomes an eternal experience. So you enter into this eternal world because you're no longer part of time. So therefore, it doesn't matter how many seconds it lasts. An eternity is going to seem like an eternity. Right? Otherwise, it's not eternity, it's just a very long time. So anyway... Hey man, I injected some bad news of Neo-Swedenborgians in there. I ain't like that. Alright. Thanks. See ya.